What's up, guys? We are here with Rashad and Troy. This is Angie B with BallerAlert. Now, these two brilliant men co-host the Earn Your Leisure podcast, and they are returning to Revolt for season 2 of Assets of Liabilities. Rashad and Troy, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. I spoke with you guys at Revolt Summit, and you guys dropped some really great gems from season 1 of the show. But for those who are unaware, can you explain assets over liability?
Yeah, Assets Over Liabilities is a show that we speak with entertainers and kind of get the backstory of their careers when it comes to finance, investing, and business. So like an MTV Cribs almost, but talking about like business and finance and stuff like that. So we sit down with this season, we sat down with a couple people like Nick Cannon, Angela Yee, Dame Dash, YG. And, we get the untold stories about their journeys, the mistakes that they've made, break down some deals that they're a part of, and really, get some insight that most people wouldn't necessarily know when it comes to, their careers as far as their investing in business side.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, when it comes to your special guests for the season, which one has surprised you the most when it comes to financial literacy?
I have two, so I'm sure people are gonna love it. I think the YG episode was incredible. Most people see him as the persona as a gangster rapper, but he's a brilliant businessman. And I don't think many people have asked him to speak on that side of his life, but he's done some amazing things and is continuing to do amazing things outside of just music. So he was incredible. And I think people are going to be surprised when they hear Jada Chiefs speak, because we know her as a social media influencer, but she's a very sharp business mind, which was very, very, very impressive. And because I've followed her career from early on. I was working with young adults and they kept talking about it. I'm like, well, what is it? What is it? And getting the opportunity to sit down and talk to her and listen to her, how she's created her brand and how she's become a businesswoman and her future aspirations, it was quite impressive. Well, I'm excited for people to actually hear that conversation.
Oh, awesome. I'm excited to hear that. Both YG and Jada, awesome. Now, Rashad, you always told Troy you didn't want him to be a teacher. What was your pitch to get him out of the school system and into teaching financial literacy with you?
Well, when we started, he was doing both. He was doing both for about like a year and a half. And the pandemic hit. Obviously, schools got closed. So he was home and we had more time to just focus on Earn Your Leisure. And we had created other shows. We did like a show called Market Mondays, which is a stock show. We were just doing different things, being more creative. And that's pandemic really helped skyrocket our platform. And that was actually a good time for us where things started to really pick up a lot. So at that point in time, I guess he just realized that it just didn't make sense for him to go back to work when he had to go back in the fall. So that was a decision, I guess, that was easy for him to make at that point in time. But that's kind of how the transition happened. So, you never know. There's blessings and everything. So obviously the pandemic was a very, stressful time for a lot of people. A lot of people, lost a lot during the pandemic. But it actually was actually beneficial for us. And, there's opportunities in every crisis. And there's a lesson in that within itself. And I think for him, that was something that, really took him out of one career and put him full-time in another career.
And how did you feel about that transition?
Me or him?
Troy, I'm sorry.
It was great. It was great. And I said this before, but it was, a lot of times in life, you get hit with this crossroads of where you're going to have the greatest impact. And I had been teaching for 13 years and I felt like I had mastered it, right? They said after you spend 10,000 hours in something, you've really mastered it. And so I had hit those 10,000 hours like 2 years prior. And I was, it kind of felt redundant what I was doing. And I was like, it's got to be something greater. I know a lot of my colleagues were saying, like, you should go into administration, or you should be the principal of a school, or you should try to be a superintendent one day. And I was kind of like, that's not where, God's leading me. I think I have a bigger purpose. And we had been doing Earn Your Leisure for a while. maybe like 18 months at the time. And I just saw the impact that we were having throughout the world. And, we were getting people from South Africa telling, this episode changed my life. We had a young lady who was in Tokyo who was listening to Market Mondays, and that had, she heard something that changed her life. And I was, looking at these messages while I'm tying like a kindergarten's shoe. I was just like, I love doing this, but the greater impact is the impact I can have on the world. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, all right, well, now, it was tough for me to do physical education through a computer, just from a legality standpoint. And it was like, you can't have certain things and you need to have a certain amount of space. And it was like, all right, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it was just full-time, everything, earn your leisure. And so when we talk about we doubled down on content, because unlike, a lot of people who were doing podcasts and, they relied on a studio. And I just relied on being home because that's what we had always recorded from. So it was like, all right, well, they can't shut our studio down. So we just make more content. And that's exactly what we did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's major. A lot of people kind of had a lot of complications during the pandemic. So for you guys to kind of take it and go in the positive direction or upward direction is amazing. And before the podcast, you all were teaching money management to kids. So you really had to break it down in layman terms. So I have to ask, how are those kids now? And do you still keep in contact with them?
You know what? And that most of them, I do keep in contact. They all live in our community. And so I get to hear some of these stories. And if I don't hear from them, I always hear from their parents. And so that's always encouraging. But that was one of the pieces that when we would do the program, I'm like, in order to scale it, we have to track these kids. And so we had a lot of kids that went to HBCUs. I had some kids go to Harvard, some Ivy League schools. And I'm like, this is incredible. If we could ever just have that all together to show like how well this program is performing, we can scale this thing out. And eventually I want to get back to that. But yeah, the program was started because kids didn't have anything to do. It was called Operation Crossroads because they had aged out of the camp experience from 1st to 8th grade, and they were too young to work. So they had the working papers at 14, but nowhere to work. And so that's where our program came in, where we gave them internships, and based on how they performed at the internship and in the classroom with us, we paid them money. And so once money came into the equation, it was like, all right, if they're going to get money, let's teach them about money. And so that's when he had just started his career as a financial advisor. I was at the early stages of my, career as a teacher. And so financial literacy is, if you think about it, like teacher, financial advisor, financial literacy, it just made perfect sense. That's just how sometimes when you walk in your purpose, it's right in front of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
It is actually our business partner. So this kid, Dominique, shout out to Dominique. He was in the and we actually have a vending machine in our old high school. And we give a portion away to the senior class. So he's actually one of the business partners in that. He helps run that vending machine operation that we have. So
yeah. And a few of them have created businesses themselves. And that was one of the projects that we had inside the program. We wanted them to come up with their own business plans, and we would support it. So we've had a few of the young adults that were in the program actually create their own businesses now. And every now and then they'll send us some merch and we'll wear it and put it on our show so people can go support.
Come on, I like that. Now, is there a potential Earn Your Leisure HBCU collab coming soon?
Of course.
Yeah, for sure. We just did Howard. Shout out to Howard. It was at Howard a few weeks ago. So yeah, EYO Tour, HBCU Tour is something that we definitely want to put together and, hit at least like maybe 10, 15 different HBCUs. I feel like that would be really dope because it was good to be on campus. That's where we started the education with the young people. So to see 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds so enthusiastic about financial literacy, about investing, talking to us about the businesses that they already have going while they actually already in college and their plans once they graduate from college. I think it was really dope. So yes, 100%, definitely.
Yeah,
if anybody wants to sponsor that.
Yeah, it was dope. Yeah, we were extremely impressed by the students at Howard. Actually, one of the young men that was in our program at 14 is a student at Howard. But when we saw the reaction and we saw how impressive that those young men and women were, it was like, yeah, we got to go to more schools. So that's definitely going to happen.
Okay, now add FAMU to that list.
FAMU's at the top of the list. Are you kidding me?
All right. Yes, I graduated from FAMU.
FAMU's up there. I want all the schools in Atlanta. We don't want to leave anybody out. Howard, obviously, we did already. Virginia State. Who else? I actually wanted to go to Norfolk State before all this, but that didn't pan out. But yeah, as many schools as we can get to, we're gonna get to.
All right, let me know. Awesome.
Oh, the whole Rattlers. Definitely got.
What'd you say?
I said the whole Rattlers nation.
Yeah, we have a big community, so you have to, you must. Now, people are constantly learning from you all, but have you learned any valuable tips regarding money management from any of your guests?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we learn from everybody pretty much, but some of the like biggest tips as far as money management is, always look at investment opportunities as something that's a necessity and not something that's really optional. Like, a lot of times people look at like investing as like the last thing on the totem pole. Like they got to pay their bills first. They got to go on vacation. They got to do this, that, and the third. And then it's like, if there's any money left, then they'll invest. Where it's like, really should be looking at like the other way around. Like, investing is mandatory. And then, if there's anything left, then you have some fun doing that. So, one of the things that I think people make the mistake of is that the more money that they make, they spend more money. So they look at that, and that's really a recipe for disaster, because no matter how much money you make, if you're spending more money constantly, you're never going to have an opportunity to save. You're never going to have an opportunity to invest. So the key is to actually make more money, but while you're making more money, keep your expenses low. And that's hard because, it's tempting to spend more money when you have more money to spend. But it takes discipline to have more money and still not actually spend that money, but to invest the money. And, you got to have your money work for you. You got to have your money grow. And that's the only way to really ever really reach a level of, comfortable wealth status. And that's something that we've learned from a variety of different guests, is that, money is a tool that has to be used to make more money. It's not just a voucher that's just used to just spend to buy things.
Yeah, I'll just give like specific examples, because we learn, like you said, we learn from everybody, but a lot of the things that we actually apply, we're getting from our guests, right? And so when we created a trucking company, a logistics company, we weren't familiar with what it would take and all the intricacies that go into it, but we had a great mentor, Alex Good Energy, who was actually a pro in it. And so when we decided to create that business, we had somebody to lean on. When we were doing vending business, like we said, like, one of our partners is a former student from our program. When we had to get all the information of how to get a location and where do we get the vending machines from, and, like, how do we price it? We leaned on a former guest. Even in real estate now, like I'm personally going through a real estate transaction, learning what hard money was. We had no idea what that was before we had guests to come to tell us, learning what HELOCs were and all these different type of programs, first-time home buyers. These weren't like normal conversations that we were having at the dinner table. And so the fact that we have people who are in these fields and are experts in these fields that come to provide information for our audience, but in the same light provide information for us and now become a resource for us, for somebody we can lean on when we're going through the process, it's extremely valuable. So we're not looking at it like, these are guests. We're looking at it like, no, these are people who are going to teach us too.
Love it. And at what age were you informed on the importance of managing your finance, and how did it change the way you think about the world?
We're gonna have two complete different answers. I'll let him start though.
Yeah, I was always into investing in business pretty much like my whole life. Like since I was probably like 11 or 12 years old, like, I always was interested in the stock market. Watching movies about the stock market. Like took a trip to Wall Street when I was like 12 years old. And that was like life changing, just to actually see it in person and to see the speed of everything. And everybody was just wearing suits, and that was just really intriguing to me. So I was introduced to that young, like way before any of my friends. And I understood the value of investing and the value of money since I was like, a little kid.
Yeah, I was completely different. My parents I didn't have anybody that was working in the financial field, and having financial conversations wasn't something that we did. So I'm first generation. My parents from Jamaica. And so we we only talked about sports, and my dad watched cricket, and like, that was it. And he went to work every day. And I can't tell you it. I know he worked in the city. I just didn't know what he did. But as an adult, I became very knowledgeable when I started. I mean, and I'm sure this is pretty familiar with a lot of college students. When you get out of college, student loans are due, and those credit card bills that you have when you're in college are due. And so having to go through that process, I had to teach myself. I had to learn. And obviously, Shadi was in the financial field. And so learned from him and learned from our other friends who were reading literature. And I was like, wait, I'm reading the source in double XL. Y'all reading about finance? Like, nah, like I'm not getting left out of the conversation. So like that always was my thing. Like I never wanted to be left out of a conversation. If we were talking about taxes, I need to know something about that. If we're talking about real estate, or we're talking about stocks, I need to learn about that. And so I took it upon myself to figure out, all right, well, if no one's going to teach me, and this is a lesson I learned in ninth grade. I remember I got like a D in math, and I was like, it's the teacher's fault. And one of my friends was like, it really isn't her job to make sure that you learn. Her job is to teach. Like your job is to make sure that you learn. And so that moment when I was like 15 came back to me when I was like 22, and I was like, you know what? It's going to be my job to learn. I don't have a teacher in this field, so I'm gonna have to teach myself. So that's my story with it.
Oh, wow. A 15-year-old student told you that? Another friend?
Yeah, well, she was 17. She was in 11th grade at the time.
Oh
but she had passed the class like 2 years prior. And I was like, yo, she's a terrible teacher. He was like, yeah, she is, but I still got an A. I'm like, she was like, because it's not her job to make sure that you learn. Her job is to teach the class. Your job is to make sure that you learn. And
that's a good friend right there.
Got it.
That's a good friend right there. And what has been the most rewarding part of this experience?
Seeing people that actually have taken the information and helped change their life. Like, seeing people's like, I started an Airbnb business and I'm making, a couple $1,000s a month, or I started a trucking company, I got vending machines, I'm in stocks, real estate. I quit my job because I'm making enough money from, starting a daycare from a multi-family home. So seeing the real life success stories of people that have actually taken the information that we provide, the guests have provided, and they've actually implemented it, and they're actually making money from it. That's, for me, that's the most rewarding part.
Yeah, that's the model. Information on us, execution on you. And so, every day, I don't think there's a day that goes by when we walk outside and somebody doesn't tell us about some piece of information that they heard that changed their life or that changed the way that they think, which is, it's extremely humbling, but it's also the fuel that, you have to keep going. Because we don't take that very lightly. Like for someone to humble themselves, and a lot of times it's men that look like us, and they're just like, look, you changed my life. And so I know the humility that has to go into even making that type of statement, which is very powerful. So that is very rewarding. And then seeing the rewards of that, like watching people trying to actually fit the title of earning their leisure, right? Like they're earning their freedoms, they're earning their time back. It's incredible. Like we call it the financial revolution. Because it is that, and to be a part of it and to be leading it is extremely humbling in itself. So we know that the task is great, but we know there's nothing that we can't handle.
Absolutely. Now, where did this name come from? I mean, it's very fitting.
Yeah. So Rashad was creating a social media presence for himself. He wanted to be a celebrity financial advisor. And so, we best friends, we like brothers. And so I was like, I bet, man. He was like, I need a hashtag. I got a campaign. We had drew up a little scene for him and we were going to record it. And he's like, I need a hashtag to go with it. And so he was like, yo, Mike, our other partner, he's like, look, I need a hashtag. Can y'all come up with one? And we were working out one day. I'm like, I got a hashtag for you. And he was like, what is it? I'm like, earn your leisure. And he was like, I'm not sure I like it. I was like, nah, it's perfect, man. We come from a working class neighborhood, but people think we came from silver spoons. They never realized how hard we had to work to get some of the things that we had. They knew we had nice cars and we had nice clothes and, we dated pretty women and we threw good parties. And they thought that was it. Like these guys have always had it. And they never saw, like myself working 2 jobs and going to school at night and, falling asleep and going to school on Saturdays and all these things, like him working out at ridiculous hours in the morning and busting his tail and trying to figure it out and locking himself in a room for a week so he could study. Nobody sees all that. They just see the glory. And I was like, nah, it's perfect. we've earned some of these freedoms. And so Earn Your Leisure was the hashtag. He was using it and he stopped, and then he came back to it. And when we were trying to create a name for the show, we were going back and forth. He had a name, I had a name. Both would have been lawsuits. I'm sure Puff trademarked the names. I had Dumb Rappers Need Teaching. He had Money, Power, Respect. And we didn't agree on either. And Earn Your Leisure was the hashtag that nobody, you know, it was ours. And so we're like, there it goes. That's the name.
I love it. I love it. And what's the earliest age you think people should be informed on their finances?
Yeah, I think it's as early as possible, but I think by the time a child is probably like 10 years old, they should be able to get it. If you start teaching them, like, you know, just throwing little tidbits out there, like 8, 7 years old, they start to, you know, pick certain things up. You'd be surprised, like, what kids pick up early. So, like, by 7, you could probably start to, like, you know, introduce different things to them. And then by 10, they could probably have more of a greater understanding. And then by 12, then they could really understand it at that point. I feel like at 12 years old, you could, like, really know, like, how to invest in the stock market yourself if you are educated on it.
Yeah, I say the early as possible. So like, you got a 6, 7-year-old and you're buying Roblox every day. That's a perfect example of how to teach them. Well, you can relate. Right? I mean, it's a publicly traded company, so there goes an intro right into the stock market right there. Right? If they're watching Disney Plus, there goes an intro. Right now, like, my son saw Netflix on TV. He was like, "Daddy, what's happening?" And so there goes a conversation right there. And so, you know, you give it to them in small doses, and like you said, over time, then as they learn more, they understand more, you can teach them more.
And Earn Your Leisure, Assets Over Liabilities, is already making, you know, a large impact in the Black community. But what do you all want this show? What type of impact do you all want this show to have on the world?
Just to, you know, provide a different lens to people that may be already familiar with, you know, people already familiar with these people, but provide a different lens and a different insight, and give them more of an understanding that there's more to just going on stage and performing, or just being on front of a camera. And, you know, hopefully that will actually be able to inspire people and to educate people. I think those are the two biggest things: inspire and educate. Because ultimately it's still a form of education. Like, you can learn from different people's experiences and different people's inner workings and how they structure their deal. And then you can actually utilize that for yourself, like how to structure your deal or the mistakes not to make. So I feel like if we could educate people while inspiring them and entertaining them at the same time, then that would be easy.
I'm with him. I think aspiration and inspiration are the key things that we want to leave behind. You know, a lot of these people come from the music or entertainment space, but those are still businesses. And so getting to peel back those layers of what they're doing on the business side, because a lot of times that gets overlooked, right? People hear the music business, but they only focus on the music and they forget the business side of it. And so the fact that these people that we're coming in contact with get to peel back the layers and, like you said, explain their experiences, and the number one thing that people can learn from is the mistakes, right? So your trajectory is going to go a lot further because you know that these are the things that they've had to go through already. And so that's the key. We want young people and people of all ages really to see themselves or see an aspect of in an interview or an avenue inside of an interview, and they say, like, I can do that, right? Like, I can be that. It's going to be tough for me to be LeBron James, but I could be Maverick Carter. I can be Rich Paul. Like, these guys are astute businessmen and businesswomen. Jamel Hill, a perfect example of that inside the sports world, who was a beast when it comes to business. Getting able to see her in that aspect, other than just the sports anchor that was on SportsCenter, it's incredible. So I hope everybody takes that from it.
Absolutely. And lastly, do you all have anything planned for Financial Literacy Month?
Yeah, we actually. So we're partnering with Ally, and we're giving away scholarships to EY. We have a platform called EY University, which is an educational platform, like a hands-on online learning experience. And we're giving away scholarships all month on our show, Market Mondays. Every single Monday at 8 o'clock, we're giving away scholarships. And like I said, that's in a partnership with Ally. So yeah, that's definitely something that we have planned around the Financial Literacy Month.
Yeah, and we're putting out this show, Assets Over Liabilities, season 2, right in the middle of the month. So that kind of works perfectly.
Yeah. Literally, you guys are doing amazing things. I'm very, very proud of you. Congratulations again on season 2. When you're walking in purpose, obviously things start to align for you. So I'm very, very, very happy for you. And I can't wait to see all the things that you guys continue to pursue from these different opportunities. So thank you guys.
We appreciate you. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you. Thank you.